Welcome to VezaTalks podcast. My name is Mario Milanovic, and I'm glad to welcome Marco Di Elia today. Marco went from Mr. World Italy to now a yogi with almost 250,000 TikTok followers. Marco is a public figure, a social media influencer, an actor, a singer, a male model, an MMA fighter, a fragrance enthusiast, a self-development lover, and entrepreneur, and a big believer in power of human connection through social media to change our lives and the world. Welcome.
Yeah, that was a great introduction, even way too much for me. Thanks a lot for that. I really appreciate
Well,
it.
it's okay. I mean, I love people that do a lot of different things, and it's always nice to see people change different um, ambitions, I suppose, and going from one thing to another. But before we talk about your mastery of TikTok, let's go back to your early days and how you started. And I know you were a swimmer and a competitive swimmer and all that, and then you became a model and all that. So tell our viewers a little bit more about yourself because it's an interesting story.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it all started when I was 18 years old. Before being 18, I was a professional swimmer. I was swimming basically 7 days out of the week. So every single day, swimming, 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 just working out. So I never touched anything outside of my home, besides school and my girlfriend. So when I was 18, I decided to quit swimming, and like when you are 18, you're in that period in which you don't know if you want to do university because you are leaving high school. So you're in that transition mode where you don't know what to do with your life. And so I quit
Right.
swimming. I couldn't find basically any friend anymore because all my friends, all the people that I knew was just in my swimming team. When I was in high school, I studied communication sciences. And so I was the only guy, or all my other classmates, they were all just girls. So I found myself
Okay.
basically with nothing from scratch. And I decided, you know what, let's try and see what happens in the world outside of my bedroom. And so I went out and I discovered a bar, a disco bar here in my hometown here in Italy. And you've never been to a bar, you've never drank alcohol, you've never smoked, so you know what happens. You enter in a really bad period for some time, and that period was really depressing. And after a few months of basically having nothing, my family, they had a bit of a struggle with money, and my mom got diagnosed with something not so good. And one day I
Okay.
just woke up and decided, you know what, I have to do something with this life. I have to do something besides waking up at 1 p.m. because I slept I went out the whole night, and so I went out in the bookstore and bought my first self-development book, and that's where it all started.
Okay. Amazing. What book did you buy?
Oh, the first book was Think and Grow Rich.
Okay. Napoleon. Sure. Absolutely. A really, really, really good book. Yeah. Okay. And then what happened after you read the book? You got inspired, or what happened?
Oh yeah, a whole universe open to me. I was already like a very thoughtful person, swimming the whole day. You're basically with your own self the whole day, kind of meditating during your swimming session. And so
Right.
I came here and just kept reading, kept reading, kept reading books about self-development. At that moment, I just wanted to make money because I wanted to help my family. So I read
Sure.
other books like Total Money Makeover. I read
Okay.
Robert Kiyosaki and all these other, the
Yep.
famous books that everyone reads.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. Robert Kiyosaki is very famous. I used to play his Cash Flow 101 and 202 game. Actually, I used to host events and have people over, and we would play games and network.
That's awesome. and
Yeah.
uh, and so what happened after a while? I shifted my whole mindset. I started waking up early. I started doing my things, being productive, and I said, you know what, I have to do something. I signed up for university. And at university, I found a girl that told me, "Oh man, you're tall, you're nice looking. Why don't you try modeling?" Because she was a model, and I tried.
Okay.
She contacted her agency for me, and I started doing my first runway. It went well, and I started posting everything online. When I started posting everything
Okay.
online, then it all came like a snowfall, like a snowball effect. The photographers started contacting me, and then I built more portfolio, and then I started posting it more online, and everything happened until one point, one guy reached out to me and said, "You know what? Do you want to try a male pageant?" And I said, "Oh, that's not like fashion. That's not paid. That's not like a job. But
Right. Right.
let's do it. Let's try it. It's just an
Right.
experience." And it was Mr. Italy.
Okay. Wow.
It went pretty well. And so the guy, when I was in university one day, and I received this call by the manager of Mr. Italy, and he said, "Hey Marco, do you have a passport?" I said, "Yes, of course." "Can you speak English?" "Definitely." "Do you want to go to Miami, all paid? There is like this big pageant, and you have to represent Italy." I said, "Oh, yes, I definitely want to."
Sure. Why not?
Yes.
Dream come true.
And that was the first international May pageant. It went pretty well. I met so many guys from all over the world. And when I came back here to Italy as a second place, so first runner up, media started talking about me and some journalists asked about me. So I ran this wave a little bit of kind of
Sure.
media fame. And many people, when I started posting online stuff, they asked me, "Marco, how do you treat your hair? How do you get your body?" So they started asking me personal questions. So instead of just
Right.
replying to everyone, I opened the YouTube channel, and this is where it all
Okay.
started.
Amazing. Wow. So yeah, so you basically did things that were uncomfortable and but you just decided to, go with the flow and allow the universe to kind of help you get to wherever you need to get. So yeah, so now you're you open up your YouTube channel and then what happened? How did you progress from there?
I opened the YouTube channel. I started posting online, and it went kind of well in the beginning. I didn't know if I wanted to make Italian content, English content, or just whatever. I
Right.
knew I had a great physique, so I just started posting fitness content like
Okay.
every guy starts doing.
Sure.
If it's not gaming, it's fitness. So,
Right.
but then I said, "Oh, fitness is not my thing." So I prefer, talking about beauty care and self care and how
Okay.
I started modeling. But after a
Okay.
while, I noticed that modeling was not bringing me to a career, having a healthy career. Because, you work with your image,
Okay.
but it's not about your talent most of the times. I also was getting bigger. So in Milan, it's pretty hard if you're a big guy. And so what happened is I started trying acting schools. And I
Okay.
decided, you know what, I want to go to LA and try get into acting and singing more. I started doing acting, I started doing singing. While in the meanwhile, I kept going with my personal development routine, waking up early, reading books, all hustling and going. And that was the hustling period. Uh,
Right. And so now you're living in LA.
no, I'm still in Italy, but I went to LA for a couple of months to try acting
Okay.
because that was the period
Okay.
before COVID, just right before COVID.
Right. And how did that go? So tell us a little bit about. So you arrive in LA, and did you have the agency already? Did you have somebody representing you, or how did that work?
I basically went all in with finding an agency because if I wanted to go to Los Angeles, I knew I needed a sponsor and for the visa. So the problem is
Right.
I didn't have an agency that was international at that moment. So I went there just with my photos and with a little bit of unexperience and said, you know what,
Right.
let's try with all the agencies in LA and see what they can do about it. Uh,
Okay.
I also met. I went with a guy that was the Mr. World of Honduras. Because thanks to the
Okay.
pageants, I met a guy from all over the world, so he hosted me. And basically, I went there. I noticed, okay, if I want to go to LA and if I want to model, there are some agencies that are interested in me, but I have to build some portfolio in Italy before going there. So I went back to
Right.
Italy, and then the COVID started, and it completely changed my life, changed my things, changed my goals. It all changed. Sorry if I keep talking about
Okay.
myself, but I'm trying to
No,
make
no,
it
no.
as
That's
quick as
good. That's good.
possible.
That's what we're No, that's what we're here for. You have an interesting story, and I think everybody wants to know about your story, not about anything else. So COVID changed everything. So what happened during COVID? You basically decided to go into a different direction, or you had an enlightening moment, or what happened?
Yeah, the yogi part started.
Sure.
uh, Before COVID, actually, the guy from Mr. Italy, the one guy that brought me to Miami, he asked me if I wanted to have a bigger pageant, which was Mr. World, representing Mr.
Okay.
World Italy. And I said, "Oh, I actually closed the chapter of modeling, and I don't know if I want to do it." But it was in Manila, in the Philippines, and I could meet
Sure.
many guys that could also help me with acting and with my career. So I said, "You know what? Let's try it." It didn't well.
Okay.
It didn't go as well as the first pageant, but it went pretty well, and I met so many great guys, amazing people. And when I came back here, my social media kind of exploded thanks to TikTok because of Mr. World.
Okay.
And so I started
Okay.
making some money from social media, and I decided to quit modeling for that moment to just focus on social media. And that COVID started uh, full time. So the quarantine started, and for a couple of years we were just here. And so I focused on social media, and that was my main job. That's where I started,
Okay.
focusing on a specific kind of niche. So niching down because I wanted to collaborate with other people. I wanted to collaborate with brands, and so that's where I started also switching a bit to Italian because brands were in Italian.
Okay.
And the whole pandemic, the whole quarantine made me stay here at home, and something switched like a flower, slow in blossoming.
Sure.
Uh, I was kind of, as I told you in the beginning, mindful person right from the childhood. I was always been alone. My family is very small because I'm half Italian and half Bosnian. My mom is from Bosnia,
Okay.
so she came here escaping from war. So I basically don't have relatives from Bosnia, and my dad is very alone. Also, he escaped from home when he was a child. So we're just here, my parents and my brother, my bigger brother. So I was always been alone. My The only people that I actually grew up with was my swim mates. So
Okay.
and high school friends were just girls, so I didn't create that connection with them. So being alone all the time made me grew up here like monk mode during quarantine in this bedroom. Right now, even my bedroom here is just I do everything here. I work out here. I meditate here. I work here. I do everything here. It's just kind of my temple and the place I basically never leave.
Okay.
And when you get into self development, reading books, there is a moment where you have kind of enough of these books because they all basically talk about the same things. So there is a moment in which the you switch something and say, okay, if I want to have more, I have to stop looking outward and I have to start looking inward. So you switch
Yep.
your perspective. And one
Right.
book that I started reading that was not just about external success, but it was a bit more inward, was a book by Eckhart Tolle, and it was
Sure.
The Power of Now,
The power of
of
now.
course.
Yeah.
And that actually woke me up a bit from unconsciousness to be a bit more conscious. Then I discovered the Wim Hof method. I don't know if you know Wim Hof, the breathing
Yep. Absolutely.
exercises
Yeah.
and
Of
the
course.
cold showers.
Yeah. The Dutch guy. Yeah.
I did
Hmm.
his breathing exercises for basically a year. I keep doing them right now, but I went all in with the course. After the Wim Hof method, I discovered yoga, and I discovered the real yoga, the yoga from
Okay.
India. So it's not just the twisting things that you see in doing in
Sure.
California, but it's more of inner growth. And
Okay.
I met also Sadhguru, which is one of the most
Yep.
the biggest exponential of spirituality in the world.
Yes.
I did his courses and I went all in with yoga, and now it's basically what I do full time. So I wake up, I do
Amazing.
yoga half of the day, and the other half I just grow with my external life, external
Sure.
success.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, Eckhart Tolle, I'm very familiar with him. I saw him live in Vancouver. I used to live in Vancouver for many, many years, over 20 years, and he's from. I mean, he lives there now. He's German, of course, raised in Spain, I believe. Yeah, his books were quite amazing. His two books that he wrote, and they do tend to waken you up in some way. I find him sometimes hard to understand. It's he mumbles on a little bit and his voice is a little weird, but the content is fantastic. I mean, the books were really amazing, right? So yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, definitely yoga is a good thing to do, and there's different kinds of yoga. You're right. There's the kind that people just walk around with a yoga mat, pretending to be doing something. Meditation is super important. I think it's been part of my life for probably 12 years now, every day, and it's great to see that. So it sounds like you're an introverted person that somehow got pulled out into this extroverted um, uh, life, and then you kind of did a full swing back into being introverted. So there's it's interesting. Like I'm much older than you, of course, and I was raised without internet, so to speak, at one point in my life, and then it switched. So I'm super happy to see the. Well, I'm happy that I lived in the life of non-technological daily interference, so to speak,
Okay.
right? And so I'm grateful for that because I saw that. But I think somebody like you who's younger probably hasn't experienced that too much, right? So a lot of people in your generation now are almost, well, not almost, everybody's addicted to their phones, right? And what would you recommend for people to do on a daily basis? I mean, I don't know that any people are gonna go and do Wim Hof, every single day, right? But like somebody that's kind of like introverted and wants to break free of the chains and wants to start some type of social media presence, I suppose. What are the top three things that you feel are like the ones that could change their lives?
Ooh, that's a question. Alors, the main thing, in my opinion, you said it right. Right now, we're so hooked up with social media, and that's my job. So, I mean, if I say it, I mean it with all my heart. You can, like, social media is a huge instrument. You can use it for so many good things in the world. You can reach out to people from the other side of the ocean in just a second. The only problem with social
Right.
media if you're a consumer. So
That's right.
my main thing is starting using social media more as an instrument for doing what you need instead of consuming content, because social media are just
Right.
created and made to make you stay and stick to the platform as much as possible. Of course, that's how they make
Of
money,
course.
and that's
Yep.
the main thing. So it's okay, it's great. I mean, if you want to, be entertained, that's great. The problem is that it really screws up your whole motivation, your whole mind, and you get into this comparison mode. Mostly Instagram, you stay there, it's kind of toxic because you start using it, and after 30 minutes, you find out yourself scrolling and feeling so miserable and feeling so bad,
Yep.
even if your life is nice and other people's lives are just as nice as yours, but you see, the best parts of everyone, the highlights of everyone's life.
Right.
And so this feeling of comparison, you know, this is what makes, in my opinion, my generation, the Gen Z, so suffering. So comparison is so connected to social media and our digital identity. That's my main thing. If you want to have a bit better mental health, that one thing will increment your mental health by 90% for sure.
Okay. So your TikTok audience is it a quarter million subs?
Kind of, yes.
Right. Yeah. So that's a lot. So where's the majority of the subs? Are they in Italy or where are they? All over the world? Do you know?
Since I started making videos in English before, I have half of them from Italy and half of them from international parts.
Okay. And so basically, how are you? Walk us through your process. So do you post every? I imagine you post every day. So is it a couple times a day? Is there a format that you use? Is it spontaneous? Do you have a journal the night before? About what you're gonna post the next day or the next week? What does that look like?
Do you know Gary Vee? Of
Of
course,
course.
you know Gary Vee. And when I started creating content, he was kind of the mentor I took. So I went hustling whole mode, creating so much content every single day. And
Right.
I don't know if it's the right choice. I still think it was a good choice if you're a beginner. So if you're a beginner, when I was starting, I created so much content. Like I have thousands of videos on my YouTube channel, like so much
Right.
content. But now, uh, one a couple of years ago, I went into this very big beauty care and fragrance exposition here in Italy,
Okay.
and I met the kind of biggest influencers in of the beauty care industry here in Italy, and they really helped me. They're helping me a lot, and I met their manager, which is now my agent in the beauty industry, and
Okay.
they helped me redirect my social media in a way to have it social media more as a job. And I
Right.
noticed slowly that now, when you want to start, you have to create a lot of content to understand the feedback of your audience and to understand what to create and see what happens.
Right.
And also to get a bit of experience in front of the camera. But after a while, you start niching down and you have to prioritize quality. Right now, I post
Right.
2 YouTube videos per week, and I post every single day on TikTok and Instagram since it's the same reel. But
Right.
before, I was posting every day on every platform using multiple platforms, and now I'm just down on 3 platforms, 4 with Facebook. And I just try to, think a bit more of the content that I want to make a bit more research behind the content I make, and a bit more process behind it. That's it.
Right. Amazing. It's really cool to talk to somebody like you because the thing is that without social media, you don't know where you would have kind of ended up, right? So now that you're able to take something that you're passionate about, whether that's fragrances or uh, and we'll talk about that in a second because I'm interested in fragrances as well.
All right.
You're able to basically monetize your passions, right? And you're right. I think that in the beginning, and I know many influencers that it's basically just about content, 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 and just you don't even know what you're doing half the time, right? You're just like feeling stupid, feeling like why am I doing this? People are gonna judge me, but eventually, months go by and you become better and better and better at it, and you form, like you said, your demographic, right? You realize what works, what doesn't work. You have a lot of stats, a lot of data to back it up, and then you can kind of form your content towards your audience, so to speak. It's still at the same time staying passionate about what you like to do. At the same time, you want to make some money, in of course, right? So that's really 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 cool. So tell me about the fragrances. I love fragrances. I used to follow a German guy.
Jeremy.
You probably know him. Yeah, yeah. I used to follow him, and then he kind of went off the deep end. I kind of went crazy or something. I don't know. It was difficult to watch this guy, But I learned a lot from him, And it was like he would have the top 3 or top 10 fragrances, and then he would go into the streets and talk to women and which ones they liked and everything, right? So it was cool because I literally formulated my whole fragrance corner, what do you want to call it, based on some of the suggestions that he had, right, which were amazing, right? So tell us a little bit about that. It's pretty cool.
I actually was the first guy to collaborate with Jeremy on his own brand, because now he has his own brand,
Okay.
and I was the first guy
Okay.
receiving his fragrance when he released it to review
Right.
it.
What's the brand called?
Fragrance One.
One. Okay, that's right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, now he's different. Now, now he's different. It all
And
started when I was in personal development. You try to be better at everything, and I was focusing more externally than internally at that moment. So one thing that you check out when you're focusing externally is, of course, your appearance and your presence. That means also your
right.
fragrance. That is the main
Right.
accessory for presence. You don't see it, but you feel it, and it's such a great way for first impression and to be recognized and be remembered. And so I started watching Jeremy as well and some other YouTube channels because he wasn't still that famous at that moment. There were other channels as well, and I started also. I always had a great nose. That's my main sense. Uh,
Okay.
and so I started went into the going into the stores and check out every fragrance, see if I can remember it the next day, see if I can remember it, and then basically going
Yeah.
every day on fragrance stores. After a while, I decided to buy
Yeah.
something, and I developed uh, my small collection, and now it's kind of became my job because I was the first guy in Italy to talk about it, but I was talking in
Amazing.
in English. That's the problem
Right.
because now there are some
Right.
bigger ones in Italy because they started with TikTok just in Italian. Now that's why I
Right.
switched a bit more to Italian because brands here in Italy they want to collaborate in Italian, and that's the problem. But I was one of the first guys, and so I had this kind of legacy behind me that I can talk about fragrances and beauty, even if I talk about self care in general. But I can talk
Sure.
about it with and people actually trust my opinion.
Right. Cool. I'm wearing Tom Ford Eau Wood. So
Ooh, that's a classic,
um
elegant one.
yeah, I like it. I like it. It's I don't wear it all a lot, but when I do, it's like one of those like days how I feel, and I was just like, ah, today I feel like that, you know. So, really
Do you
amazing.
get compliments with that?
Um, I not
Not much.
yeah not really. The thing it's kind of funny. I mean, I live part of my life in Serbia,
Okay.
and part of my life in Asia, Thailand
Oh
usually,
wow.
and then I travel around a lot. And for some reason, I don't know, Eastern Europeans don't compliment anybody on fragrances.
Of
It's
course.
it's a really weird thing, you know. I mean, I raised in Germany and in Canada and the U.S. and it feels like there people are more complimentary when it comes to fragrances, which I just realized right now as I'm speaking to you, which is kind of bizarre. So yeah, I mean, I don't know that I put it on for other people. I put it on for
Of course.
myself, more so I think. So just to make the like you said, definitely gives you a certain sense of well-being, and depending on how you feel, it can change your mood as well. I mean, it's a very interesting area of life, right? With
Yes.
self-improvement and all that kind of stuff being part of it, right? So it's super interesting. So yeah, man, I mean, I really love your story. I think it's super inspirational. I think that there's a lot of
Thank you.
people in the world, a lot of even, especially younger, your generation, which really get a lot of benefit with what you're doing. You sometimes you don't realize that, but I think that's content creators like yourself, which are very important because you do combine the external and the internal. The majority of content create or influencers are, like you said, externally motivated, and then internally, how do you monetize internal? Well, you don't. You monetize it for yourself,
Yes.
and you're able to become a better human being and give more benefit towards other people in the world, right? So it's very important for people to realize that meditating and reading a book on self-awareness is like one of the best things that you can possibly do, right? It's very, very important, and I try to convey that message whenever I talk to anybody, especially younger people, right?
Yes.
Really cool. So in closing, one question that I ask all my guests is the following: if you were in my shoes and you would ask you a question that I didn't ask, what would that be?
Ooh, uh, how are you? No, I mean,
How are
oh,
you?
it's good. It's good. Great. Thank you. Probably a question that I think I would not have the time to talk about it, profoundly. But that would be the main question, which is how to reconcile the outer aspect with the inner aspect. How do you talk
Okay,
about beauty and yoga in the same on the same YouTube channel? That's weird.
right. So can you give us a glimpse of what that looks like? You don't have to go into great detail, but like, what one of the things that allows you to combine those two things. What do you think that is?
Oh well, like just talking it very shortly, the main thing is you have to earn your living on this planet. So even if you are here with your inner growth, even if you're here as a self and growing yourself and being in your inner journey, inner path, whatever religion or whatever thing you're doing, you have to earn your living. You're here in a society, so that's what people ask me to do. So the inner part,
Right,
the yoga part, is what I'm kind of more lean to. I'm leaning into, of course, growing because that's my main thing since I made that switch at 18 years old, as I told you. I keep growing, and
right,
that's my journey. So I try to help people documenting my journey with that. But the outer aspect is what makes me earn a living. That's what people ask me. If people don't ask me about it, I don't have any any props
right,
to talk about it. But in any case, if you are not identified with your external things, you can play with it however you want. If your real
right,
identification is with the self, is with your inner self, then you can play with the outside game however you want. The problem is when you
right,
get identified with it and you get compulsive about it.
right. Amazing answer. I love it. Tell everybody how they can find you. What are your handles?
Ooh, everywhere. Everywhere. My digital identity is bigger than my ex- my person right now. As every Gen Z guy, I mean, on Instagram it's Marco Delia, which is Marco Delia 97, and on YouTube is Marco Delia. Everywhere I use my name, so it's pretty easy to find me.
Great. Well, again, thank you so much for being part of the show. I really wish you all the best. Maybe in a
Thank you.
year or so, we can have another one and see if you're at 2 or 3 million followers on TikTok. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.